Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Battle Through the Heavens Part 206 based on novel. So let's start. Demon Saint Huang Quan, Xiao Yan's eyes stared intently at Yao Ming. A moment later, he suddenly smiled and asked, "Why? Could it be that this legendary Demon Saint Huang Quan is related to your 9 serene deep ground python tribe?" "Ha ha, the Demon Saint Huang Quan is naturally not a member of my tribe, but he did have quite a deep relationship with my tribe. After this ultimate expert fell back then, the inheritance that he had left behind had vanished with the flow of time." Yao Ming laughed. He softly continued, "There is a Huang Quan stone tablet in my 9 serene deep ground python tribe. It has been inherited since ancient times. All the knowledge of the Demon Saint Huang Quan is recorded in this stone tablet. It is even rumored that the essence blood of Demon Saint Huang Quan still remains deep within the stone tablet." Essence blood? Xiao Yan's hand trembled without leaving a trace. It was rumored that Demon Saint Huang Quan had half a foot in the Do D class. His strength had almost reached the pinnacle. The blood of an expert who had almost reached the Do D class would gradually begin to transform. If he had been able to successfully step into that level, his future generations would be able to enjoy his bloodline strength and be protected for 100 generations. Another ancient clan would thus be formed. Of course, Demon Saint Huang Quan had failed to make the last step until the day he died. Hence, his descendants did not enjoy such a blessing. Although his bloodline strength cannot reach his descendants, the essence blood of Demon Saint Huang Quan was a great attraction to an elite Dosheng. If one obtained it, it would undoubtedly raise one's strength. Since that Huang Quan stone tablet hides such a big secret, why is it that your 9 serene deep ground python tribe has not extracted it until now?" The allure of the essence blood of Demon Saint Huang Quan caused Xiao Yan's heart fill with excitement. However, he quickly regained his cool as he asked a question. "Ha ha, Brother Xiao Yan is as cautious as ever. The Huang Quan stone tablet is a key treasure of my 9 serene deep ground python tribe. There are 3 Do skills inscribed on it. The yellow spring finger and the yellow spring palm are respectively a Qian class low level and a Qian class middle level. They are extremely powerful. However, only the tribal chief and a few elders can practice them." Yao Ming laughed and replied, "Huang Quan finger, Huang Quan palm, what about the last Do skill?" Xiao Yan nodded. He did not appear to desire either of these skills. A Qian class Do skill might boast extraordinary might, but it did not cause him to feel an extremely great temptation. After all, he possessed quite a number of Qian class Do skills. "Yellow Spring Divine Anger," Yao Ming grinned and replied. "Yellow Spring Divine Anger?" Xiao Yang suddenly lifted his head. "Yellow Spring Finger, deciding life and death, Yellow Spring Anger, shatters one's soul?" The Do skill that Demon Saint Huang Quan used, Yellow Spring Divine Anger. Xiao Yan's heart was finally a little shaken at this moment. Huang Quan Divine Anger was, more accurately speaking, kind of sonic Do skill. Moreover, it was a Qian class high-level sonic Do skill. It was recorded in ancient texts that the Huang Quan Divine Anger was something that caused the expressions of even some elite Doshengs to change. At least 9 out of 10 top experts who had died fighting the Demon Saint Huang Quan had their souls forcefully shattered by the Huang Quan Divine Anger. Qian class high-level Do skill. It was the first time that Xiao Yan had seen a Do skill of this level. Based on what he knew, even the Angry Buddha reincarnation that he had comprehended was unable to match the Huang Quan Divine Anger. Of course, if Xiao Yan were able to successfully swallow and refine the purifying demonic lotus flame, the strength of the Angry Buddha lotus flame would likely not be weaker than the Huang Quan Divine Anger. In terms of actual destructive strength, the Huang Quan Divine Anger might be inferior to the Angry Buddha lotus flame, but it was still considered a lethal weapon. Even experts of the same level would suffer a serious blow to their souls if they were careless. It should be known that one's soul was the very foundation of that person. If one's soul was damaged, the resulting sequelae would be many times worse than a physical injury. In other words, if Xiao Yang successfully mastered the Yellow Spring Divine Anger, even a 3-star dosheng would end up suffering if that dosheng was caught off guard. Ha ha, it is the Do skill that Demon Saint Huangquan is renowned for, Huangquan Divine Anger. Yao Ming laughed, feeling extremely satisfied with Xiao Yang's surprise. According to what you have said, that Yao Xiaotian and First Elder should have practiced the Yellow Spring Divine Anger, right? If they had used this Do skill, we would not have been able to block them. Xiao Yang replied. If Yao Xiaotian and the First Elder had successfully mastered the Yellow Spring Divine Anger, it would have been a completely different situation. A Tian class high-level Do skill was relatively rare even during ancient times. It was naturally even rarer now. It isn't so easy. No one in our tribe has ever practiced the Yellow Spring Divine Anger because the Do skill is hidden deep within the stone tablet. We are unable to obtain the method to practice it. Moreover, no one dares to forcefully break the stone tablet since we are afraid of damaging the Demon Saint's essence blood inside. Yao Ming laughed in response. In that case, what is Brother Yao's intention by telling me this? Even the many generations of experts from the 9 Serene Deep Ground Python tribe were unable to obtain the method to practice this Yellow Spring Divine Anger. Even less needs to be said for us. Xiao Yang shook his head as he responded. Ha ha, others might not be able to do it, but it will likely not be a problem for Brother Xiao Yang. Yao Ming replied with a smile. Oh? Xiao Yang lifted his eyebrows. He quickly crossed his fingers, grinned, and asked, Heavenly Flame? The only unique aspect of him seemed to be his heavenly flame. The heavenly flame might be powerful, but this Huangquan stone tablet has nothing to do with it. What we require is an extremely powerful spiritual strength. There is a remnant spirit of the Demon Saint Huangquan standing guard within the stone tablet. The method to practice the Yellow Spring Divine Anger is located inside. Yao Ming laughed. Us magical beasts do not pay much attention to spiritual strength. Even with my strength, my spiritual strength is only similar to that of a Tier 7 alchemist, but I am unable to subdue that remnant spirit at this level. After probing for 1,000 years, we have discovered that a soul that has at least reached the heavenly state will be able to successfully enter the stone tablet, but a soul of this state is usually only possessed by some true Grandmaster alchemists. In the past, the tribe discussed hiring an alchemist guru, but this idea was tossed out because we were worried that exposing the Huangquan stone tablet might end up bringing some unnecessary trouble. After all, the essence blood of Demon Saint Yaosheng is also hidden inside the tablet. If news of this spread, even some elite doshengs might get involved. Even some tribe members only know about the existence of the Huangquan stone tablet, but they do not know the secret that it hides. Xiao Yang smiled. He looked at Yao Ming and said, You trust me enough to tell me such an important secret? Brother Xiao Yang, these random guesses of yours are unnecessary. The reason I have revealed this secret to you is partly because I wish to repay your favor. After all, I am not an ungrateful person. Another reason is because I wish to borrow your strength to open the stone tablet and allow me to grow stronger in order to completely control the 9 Serene Deep Ground Python tribe. Yao Ming seemed to be aware of Xiao Yang's thoughts as he spoke with a grave expression. Xiao Yang's eyes stared intently at Yao Ming. Yao Ming met his eyes without turning away. Xiao Yan slowly shifted his gaze after they looked at each other for a while. He mused for a moment and said, In that case, let me attempt and see if I can deal with the Demon Saint remnant soul inside the stone tablet. Ha ha, in that case, I will thank Brother Xiao Yang for your help. Yao Ming rejoiced and laughed after hearing Xiao Yang's reply. However, there is no rush. Brother Xiao Yang has experienced a big battle today. All of you should rest for a night while I settle the various matters within the tribe. I will lead all of you to the Huangquan stone tablet tomorrow morning. All right. The 9 Serene Deep Ground Python had experienced a drastic change. There would naturally be some bloody incidents during the night, but Xiao Yang's group was unconcerned about these bloody matters. After all, this was an internal matter related to someone else's tribe. It was not their place to intervene. A night of chaos continued until dawn before it gradually calmed down. Yao Ming had already appeared at Xiao Yang's group residence when the sun scattered down from the sky. After which, he called the rest of the group, and they headed to the back of a mountain. Xiao Yan's group did not pause along the way. Within a short 10+ minutes, they had landed near an ancient altar behind Yao Ming. This altar was extremely majestic. It had been with large green rocks. One overlooked the surrounding mountains while one stood near the altar. Xiao Yan's group slowly landed next to the altar. At middle of the square was a 1,000-foot large pale yellow stone tablet. It stood at that spot by itself while an ancient aura spread from it, causing it to appear as though it had existed forever. Is this the legendary Huangquan stone tablet? Xiao Yan raised his head and studied the enormous stone tablet. Many mysterious symbols had been engraved on it while an unusual light vaguely flickered. The stone tablet had an enormous 5-foot deep handprint carved into it. A mysterious information spread from within the handprint. It was likely that this should be the so-called Yellow Spring Fingers and Yellow Spring Palms training method. Yao Ming bowed low to this stone tablet. After which, he slowly stepped back. His eyes looked at Xiao Yan as he said, "This is the Huangquan stone tablet of my 9 serene deep-ground python tribe. The Yellow Spring Divine Anger and the Demon Saint Essence Blood are hidden within it. Whether we can obtain them will depend on Brother Xiao Yan." Xiao Yan quietly nodded. His eyes were grave as they swept over the stone tablet. He could sense an extremely powerful spiritual pressure within it. Just a remnant from his soul already possesses such a powerful pressure. I really wonder just what kind of ultimate expert that Demon Saint Huangquan was. Back then, I had once tried to obtain the Yellow Spring Divine Anger training method and the Demon Saint Essence Blood within the stone tablet. However, my spiritual strength had only just entered the stone tablet when it was struck and I coughed up blood in defeat. I had to recuperate for half a year in order to recover. Yao Ming softly sighed after seeing Xiao Yan's grave expression. His eyes wandered over the stone tablet with some fear as he said, "Even though my current strength is many times greater than back then, I have a feeling that my fate would not be any better even if I made another attempt now." The stone tablet does indeed contain an extremely powerful spiritual strength. That spiritual strength also seems to possess a kind of mysterious pressure. If I guess correctly, the attainments of that Demon Saint Huangquan in the training of his soul had likely reached a relatively frightening level. Xiao Yang nodded slightly and replied, "How can someone half a step in the Do-D class be a simple person?" Yao Ming bitterly laughed. He immediately asked, "How is it? Brother Xiao Yang, are you confident?" "I am not confident, but I can make an attempt." Xiao Yan's eyes stared at the stone tablet only to shake his head and reply. Although the gap between he and Demon Saint Huangquan was like the sky versus a stream, there was only the spiritual remains of the Demon Saint Huangquan within the stone tablet. It was difficult to predict the victor if they were to clash. Since this is the case, I will have to rely on Brother Xiao Yan. Yao Ming rejoiced after hearing this reply. "You should leave as soon as possible if you discover anything wrong." Xiao Yang gently nodded. His body moved before he appeared on a stone seat in front of the stone tablet. He slowly sat down while the soul beneath his brows began to move. "Do not allow anyone to disturb me during this period of time." Xiao Yang softly spoke. His body shook a little before a somewhat illusory figure stepped out of his brow. Finally, it was stopped in front of the stone tablet. Yao Ming quietly praised Xiao Yang after seeing that his soul take a human form similar to his actual body. The matters of the soul were far too illusory and ethereal. Do-Chi had ended up dominating the continent. There were very few experts who would place much emphasis on the training of one soul. Although the soul was the foundation of a person, it couldn't obtain a dominating effect when fighting with others without a special method which was disproportional to the effort and time required to practice it. Hence, most experts' spiritual strength could merely be called an ordinary level. It was impossible for them to turn their illusory soul into an actual body of substance like Xiao Yang could. Xiao Yang's spiritual body was suspended in front of the stone tablet. His eyes scanned the tablet. It was a long while later before he took a step forward in front of Kalin's group. The somewhat illusory body collided with the stone tablet. The surface of the ancient tablet seemed to form a circular ripple like a liquid the moment the two collided. Xiao Yan's soul also appeared as though it had been devoured and strangely disappeared in front of the stone talisman. Rumble. Thunderbolts roared like a storm in the air, containing an ancient aura. The loud sound shook the square until it trembled. Is this the hidden space within the stone tablet? Xiao Yan's body floated in air. He glanced around this unusual space and surprise flashed across his eyes. After which, he looked into the distance to what appeared to be the edge of this space. This demon Saint Huang Quan really lives up to his reputation by being able to create a realm in the stone tablet. Xiao Yan softly sighed and gently stepped on air. He slowly walked deeper into the created space. The thunderbolts in the sky appeared as though they were being stirred while his legs moved. They suddenly struck him from all directions, but Xiao Yan's expression did not change as this attack came. His footsteps did not falter. Any bolt of lightning that reached a 50-foot radius around his body suddenly shattered by an invisible force. It was as though he was within a protective barrier. Bang! Those thunderbolts seemed to be aware that there was nothing they could do to stop Xiao Yan as he continued to venture deeper. Hence, they gradually came to a halt. A deep yellow cloud layer suddenly surfaced in the sky above Xiao Yan when the final thunderbolt vanished. Soon after, an extremely powerful gale suddenly tore through the air and violently pressed down on him. Yellow spring finger. Xiao Yan's feet slowly paused. He lifted his head and looked at the enormous finger, tearing through the sky from the layer of clouds. A slight ripple appeared in his eyes as he gently waved his sleeve. A vast and mighty spiritual strength immediately surged out. It turned into a huge finger that finally smashed into that yellow spring finger with a rumbling sound. Bam! The space fluctuated as the two collided, but there was no energy explosion. The two collapsed upon contact and were both annihilated. Bang! The yellow spring finger had only just shattered when the ground under his feet suddenly cracked apart. A huge yellow hand rushed out with lightning-like speed. It appeared below Xiao Yan in a flash. The hand was clenched and firmly grasped Xiao Yan. Shatter! A calm voice was slowly emitted from within the large hand. A powerful spiritual storm swept out in an instant, shaking the hand until it broke apart. Demon Saint Huang Quan, reveal yourself. These techniques will not be able to defeat me. Xiao Yan once again appeared after the huge yellow palm was destroyed. He lifted his head and looked into the distance. His faint voice was just like thunder as it spread through the realm. Rumble. A mountain broke through the ground not far in front of Xiao Yan soon after his voice was emitted. It pulled the ground up as it rose. Finally, it stood above in a towering fashion. There was an enormous throne on the top of the mountain. A human figure in yellow clothes sat upright on it while an aura that caused even the world to tremble slowly spread. Young fellow, this is not a place that you should have come to. Go back. The faint voice contained a pressure that seemed to originate from one's very soul as it was slowly transmitted into Xiao Yan's ear. Numerous ripples spread from Xiao Yan's body when he heard this voice. Xiao Yan's eyes focused on the figure on the throne. A moment later, a smile danced on his lips as he said, although you were once a peak-level expert in this world, you are now a stubborn thought of a remnant soul left behind. Thief, you actually dare to behave rudely in front of me. The human figure seated on the throne suddenly widened his eyes upon hearing Xiao Yan's words. An extremely strong spiritual strength surged with lightning-like speed. It ruthlessly shot toward Xiao Yan like a blade. Useless little tricks. Xiao Yan smiled after seeing this attack. His body advanced instead of pulling back. He waved his sleeve. A majestic spiritual fluctuation spread and blocked Demon Saint Huang Quan's spiritual attack. I will leave immediately if you hand over the training method for the Yellow Spring Diving Anger and the Demon Saint Essence Blood. You should defeat me before thinking of getting your hands on the Yellow Spring Divine Anger and Essence Blood. Demon Saint Huang Quan suddenly stood up. The area surrounding the mountain collapsed the moment he got up. Advanced Heavenly State Soul. You are the strongest person that I have met in so many years. Unfortunately, you still have a large ways to go to the perfect heavenly state. My soul has already surpassed the perfect heavenly state and has reached the D state. You actually dare to fight me? D-state? Xiao Yan's violently heart pounded upon hearing these two words. Some shock surfaced in his eyes. This was the first time that he had heard of someone attain a spiritual strength at the D-state. Hardly anyone within the current Dochi continent would able to reach this state. The demon saint Huang Quan did indeed live up to his reputation. I would not dare to fight you if you were demon saint Huang Quan. However, you are currently a mere remnant spirit. Xiao Yan slowly inhaled a breath of air. His foot suddenly stepped in front of him as his body swelled thousands of feet in an instant. It was just like a giant that stood between the sky and the earth. The giant looked down on demon saint Huang Quan before clenching his large fist and violently throwing a punch. What rudeness! Demon saint Huang Quan suddenly lifted his head and let out a furious roar. Both of his palms suddenly pressed against the ground. The land of this realm immediately trembled before it split apart. Numerous large hands broke free from the ground. They violently smashed into the spiritual giant's body that Xiao Yang had formed. Destroy! The powerful attack caused Xiao Yang's spirit to emit an intense ripple. Xiao Yang did not dare to underestimate his opponent, so he widened his mouth and a spiritual strength, which contained a strange heat, erupted. After which, it ruthlessly charged down. The countless numbers of large hands were shattered upon contact. Even the shaking ground ended up being suppressed. Your spiritual strength actually possesses the power of a heavenly flame. The expression of demon saint Huang Quan changed after contact was made. A strange hand seal formed with lightning-like speed. After which, he placed the hand seal beside his mouth. An unusually frightening fluctuation rose. Space itself crumbled as this fluctuation appeared. It appeared as though doomsday was arriving. Yellow spring divine anger. Xiao Yang's expression became unusually grave when he sensed that fluctuation, which caused him to feel a little frightened. A fight between souls was even riskier than a fight between Do Chi. If one was careless, one's very soul would be shattered. If one's soul was destroyed, one's very life would vanish from this world. Demon Saint Huang Quan's attack caused even Xiao Yang to feel a dangerous aura. The stories told about the yellow spring divine anger frightening many elite doshans was not just a mere rumors. The entire realm violently shook. Even the space itself fluctuated. One could see the remnant soul of Demon Saint Huang Quan suddenly rippling in a strange fashion amid this fluctuation. These strange ripples vaguely intertwined into a 10,000-foot-tall formless figure. If one were to carefully study this figure, one would discover that this figure was the same as Demon Saint Huang Quan, but this figure gave Xiao Yang the frightening feeling of facing the entire world. This feeling let Xiao Yang sense what being insignificant and weak meant. This is the true form of the Demon Saint Huang Quan. Xiao Yang inhaled a breath of cold air. He did not expect this remnant spirit could unleash a sonic wave that gathered the true form of the Demon Saint Huang Quan. The invisible Demon Saint body, which had been transformed because of the sonic wave, slowly lowered his head. His indifferent eyes locked onto Xiao Yang in the distance. After which, he slowly widened his mouth. A sonic wave that contained an ancient tone appeared just like a lightning dragon that had penetrated thunderclouds and suddenly displayed its towering might. That invisible Demon Saint's body suddenly collapsed after a word escaped his mouth, but this realm collapsed with it. Xiao Yang's naked eye clearly watched space collapse an inch at a time as the sonic wave spread. An exterminating sonic wave erupted at a speed faster than light. This was the first time Xiao Yang had encountered such a fast attack. There was basically no time for him to form the slightest defense because of this terrifying speed. Bang bang bang. The force of this exterminating sonic wave descended on Xiao Yang, who was in the form of an enormous soul giant, the moment the ancient sound was emitted from the Demon Saint mouth. Xiao Yang's body immediately showed signs of crumbling. Countless of deep explosions spread across the surface of his body. That large body began to shrink at a rate visible to the naked eye before turning illusory. The attack was too quick. Moreover, it was a destruction as simple as a weed being crushed. This totally caught him off guard. The sonic wave was like a storm as it swept over the realm. Everything was turned into nothing under the collision of this sonic wave. Dark black light covered the ground. Only a lonely mountain stood in this dark and empty land. Demon Saint Huang Quan sat back down on his throne on that mountain. His originally illusory body had become a lot more transparent. Clearly, that attack earlier had exhausted too much of his strength. Demon Saint Huang Quan lifted his head. He looked at the black empty space and slowly said, "Consider yourself fortunate to be able to die to the yellow spring divine anger. It is indeed worthy of being the Do skill that Demon Saint Huang Quan is renowned for. It possesses such a strength despite being used by a spirit fragment. It is really difficult to imagine just how overwhelmingly destructive it was when the Demon Saint Huang Quan had used it back then." A cluster of flames suddenly appeared within the empty space after Demon Saint Huang Quan's words sounded. That flame quickly roared to life before once again turning into an illusory figure. It was surprisingly Xiao Yan, who seemed to have been destroyed by the yellow spring divine anger earlier. Flames danced around Xiao Yan's body. He stepped through empty air and slowly walked to the edge of the mountain. Next, he looked at the Demon Saint Huang Quan remnant soul and slightly smiled. "Heavenly flame, no wonder you were able to survive." Demon Saint Huang Quan was a little surprised when he looked at the flame around Xiao Yan. He said, "Even though you have the protection of the heavenly flame, it is likely that your soul has suffered a lot of damage, right? I do need to rest for over 10 days before I can recover." Xiao Yan smiled, but he did not try to act tough. His heart had already been shaken by the yellow spring divine anger. If the heavenly flame had not protected him today, he would have suffered a serious blow to the yellow spring divine anger. Moreover, the most frightening thing was the speed of the yellow spring divine anger. It was impossible to defend against that speed. "You are the first person to have endured my yellow spring divine anger after all these years." Demon Saint Huang Quan's remnant soul observed Xiao Yan. A moment later, he revealed a rare smile on his face. His body slowly leaned against his throne while he spoke in a somewhat lost tone, "This day has finally arrived. Elder, I am only after the yellow spring divine anger's training method and the demon saint essence blood. I have not formed any thoughts against you." Xiao Yang smiled as he replied, "Since you have endured the yellow spring divine anger, I will naturally give you what you want." Demon Saint Huang Quan spoke in a non-committal manner. He flicked his finger and a spiritual fluctuation appeared. It floated in front of Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang hesitated for a moment after sensing that spiritual fluctuation, but he then cautiously placed his hand inside it. That fluctuation turned into information the moment it touched his hand. It swiftly surged into Xiao Yang's mind before a complete training method appeared in his head. The characters containing an ancient aura caused a joy to rise within Xiao Yang's heart. Xiao Yang shut his eyes and sensed this information. He only opened them a moment later. The joy on his face became even greater. Not only did he find the training method for the yellow spring divine anger, it also contained the training methods for the yellow spring finger and yellow spring palm. "Thank you, Elder Huang Quan." Xiao Yan suppressed the joy within his heart as he hurriedly cupped his hands to Demon Saint Huang Quan and thanked him. "My mission has been to wait for someone who could defeat me and then pass on all of my skills to that person. Your spiritual strength has already reached the state required to practice the yellow spring divine anger." Demon Saint Huang Quan smiled. He spread his palm. After which, tendrils of a pale golden flow suddenly appeared within his illusory body. This slight flow gathered into his palm. It turned into a golden liquid body in the blink of an eye. The appearance of this ball created from the golden liquid caused Xiao Yang to feel the bloodline strength hidden within his heart violently circulated. "Is this the essence blood of Demon Saint Huang Quan?" Xiao Yang's eyes studied the golden liquid. He could sense the strange energy contained within it. No wonder this remnant spirit can summon the true body of the Demon Saint Huang Quan. The essence blood has been hidden within his body. Xiao Yang glanced at Demon Saint Huang Quan's spiritual fragment as he thought to himself. "I have trained for thousands of years in order to advance my soul to the legendary D state. However, I was still unable to take that final step." Demon Saint Huang Quan gently rubbed that golden liquid. His voice contained an endless melancholy and all the dissatisfaction he had once felt. "Elder has attained an incredible strength. If a drastic change had not befallen you, you would definitely have been able to advance to the Do-D class. Xiao Yan praised him. He was not stingy when it came to bootlicking at this moment. Ha ha, Do-D, how can it be so easy? It is likely that a Do-D will never appear in this world again. Demon Saint Huangquan shook his head and suddenly remarked. Why? Xiao Yan hurriedly asked. He was startled upon hearing this statement. The number of elite Do-D had diminished since ancient times. Now, that level only existed in legends. Other than the final Tushi ancient god, it seemed that no other elite Do-D had appeared on the continent. This matter had always been a mystery in the hearts of many people. Xiao Yang's question also caused Demon Saint Huangquan to frown. He appeared to be recalling something. It was a long while later before he lifted his head and looked across the endless empty space. A distant voice sounded, "There seems to be something lacking in the current world." What is the current world lacking? Xiao Yang's face trembled. He was unable to comprehend what Demon Saint Huangquan was talking about. Although Demon Saint Huangquan's words were simple, they appeared like a puzzle. One couldn't comprehend them. I am not very certain either. The current me is a mere soul fragment. I have lost too many of my memories. Moreover, I have existed for too long. Demon Saint Huangquan shook his head. His voice contained an extremely ancient and experienced feeling. He looked at the golden liquid in his hand before finally sighing. With a wave of his hand, that liquid drifted to Xiao Yan. You being able to come to this place is also fate. You being able to receive the Yellow Spring Divine Anger is because of your ability. The Yellow Spring Divine Anger will not be passed on to a mediocre person. You, however, are not mediocre. The golden blood slowly landed in Xiao Yan's palm. The vast and mighty energy fluctuation caused the blood in Xiao Yan's body to become much hotter. Thank you, Elder Huangquan. Xiao Yan carefully stored the Demon Saint Essence blood. Subsequently, he lifted his head only to see the mountain was collapsing. The throne on it was also cracking. The body of Demon Saint Huangquan, who was seated on it, had also become more illusory. My mission has been completed. Hopefully, my ultimate skills will not lose their glory and reputation along with my death. Elder, please leave in peace. Xiao Yan solemnly bowed to Demon Saint Huangquan. From the looks of it, the reason this remnant spirit was able to survive for so many years was because of the Demon Saint Essence blood. Now that the Essence blood had left his body, that spirit fragment had finally reached the end of its life and had started to vanish from the world. Ha ha. Demon Saint Huangquan softly laughed and nodded. His body also completely disappeared at that instant. The mountain and throne emitted a crashing sound as they collapsed with his disappearance. Finally, they turned into nothing and disappeared. Xiao Yan softly sighed after seeing this space become dark and empty in an instant. His illusory body shook before slowly disappeared from this realm. The space of this realm emitted a puff and vanished following disappearance. This video will end here.